You know, when you think of cryptids, Bigfoot, and the Loch Ness Monster, they kind of steal the show, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But hiding out there in the shadows is a creature with, with a history just as twisted and a reputation just as creepy. It's the Jersey Devil.
What always gets me about the Jersey Devil is that it's not just some far-off myth.
Yeah,
This thing is really grounded in the history and the folklore of the Pine Barrens in New Jersey.
exactly. And as someone who really loves a good cryptid story, I am ready to get into it.
Hmm.
What are we going to uncover in this deep dive?
Well, we're going to be exploring the origins of the legend. We're going to try and put together a picture of the creature's description, and we'll relive some of the most bone-killing encounters.
Okay.
But we're also going to go deeper than that. We're going to look at the theories that try to explain the Jersey Devil, everything from the supernatural to the skeptical.
I am hooked already. Let's start with the story of how this creature came to be in the Pine Barrens.
Right. The legend takes us back to the early 1700s to a woman known as Mother Leeds. Now imagine having 12 children already.
12. That's a full house.
It is a lot. And then Mother Leeds finds out she's expecting again. And according to folklore, she wasn't exactly overjoyed. Legend has it she cursed the unborn child and she said, "Let it be a devil."
Talk about a bad omen. This is not going to end well.
No, it doesn't. The story goes that when the child was born, it appeared normal at first. But then right there in front of the terrified midwives and family, it transformed.
Okay, now that's creepy. What kind of transformation are we talking about here?
Well, the details vary depending on who is telling the story, but the common thread is that this baby morphed into something monstrous. Grow leathery, bat-like wings, sharp claws, a forked tail.
Wow.
Some say its head was like a horse, others a goat, but always with glowing red eyes.
It's like somebody took all the scariest parts of different animals and mashed them together.
Yeah.
No wonder this creature has terrified people for centuries.
Yeah, that grotesque hybrid appearance is a big part of why the Jersey Devil is so unsettling. It really taps into our primal fear of the unknown, the monstrous, something that defies our understanding of the natural world.
Like our brains can't even process it,
Right.
which makes it even scarier.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, this this newly hatched monstrosity didn't stick around for tea and biscuits.
Right.
With a terrifying screech, it flew up the chimney and disappeared into the Pine Barrens. And it left behind this legacy of fear that continues to this day.
That is one dramatic exit. So this creature, this Jersey Devil, it has been seen by people over the years, right?
Hmm.
What are they describing?
The descriptions are remarkably consistent even across centuries. Imagine a creature with leathery bat-like wings spanning several feet. It has a kangaroo-like body, but it's thin, almost skeletal. And that head, whether it's horse-like or goat-like, it always features those piercing red eyes.
That sounds utterly terrifying, like straight out of Nightmare. Have there been any times when sightings of the Jersey Devil really spiked?
Oh, absolutely. You've probably heard of the 1909 panic. A week in January where hundreds of people across New Jersey, even into Pennsylvania, reported seeing the Jersey Devil.
That's a lot of sightings in such a short time. What was going on?
It was pure frenzy. People were claiming that the Jersey Devil was attacking everything: livestock, trolleys, even people.
Oh, wow.
Newspapers were filled with these crazy stories and, fear gripped the region.
I bet those headlines were wild. Devil on the loose, something like that.
Exactly. But what really fueled the panic, what really chilled people to the bone were the tracks.
The tracks.
People were finding these hoof-like prints appearing in impossible locations. Rooftops, high fences, frozen rivers.
Great hoof prints on rooftops. That doesn't make any sense.
That's what made it so terrifying. These tracks just defied logic. Like, this creature had supernatural abilities. It wasn't just a wild animal. It was something otherworldly, something that didn't play by the rules.
Okay, that is seriously creepy. So the 1909 panic, that was a big moment for the Jersey Devil, but people are still claiming to see it today.
Right. That's right. Even in the 21st century, people report encounters with this creature, especially those who venture into the depths of the Pine Barrens. Hikers, campers, locals. They describe strange sounds, fleeting glimpses of something unnatural, experiences that they just can't explain.
So this isn't just some dusty old legend. People are still having these potentially terrifying encounters. As someone fascinated by cryptids, I have to ask, do you think there's any truth to the sightings? Could the Jersey Devil actually be real?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the answer is far from simple. There are a lot of theories out there, each one offering a different lens through which to view this whole enduring mystery.
Okay, let's dive into those theories. Which one do you find most compelling, and why?
Well, the one that always pulls me back in is the idea that the Jersey Devil is a cryptid, an undiscovered species, maybe a relic from a bygone era.
That's definitely intriguing. So you're saying the Jersey Devil might not be supernatural, just something that science hasn't caught up with yet.
Exactly. Think about it. We're still discovering new species all the time, even in well-explored areas. The Pine Barrens, with its vast, dense wilderness, could easily be harboring a creature we just haven't identified yet.
Yeah, you got a point. What kind of animal could explain those descriptions, though? Bat wings, kangaroo-like body, that head. It's such a bizarre combination.
Right, and that's what makes the cryptid theory so fascinating. Cryptozoologists have pointed to several candidates. Some believe it could be a large mutated bat, its appearance distorted over generations. Others suggest it could be a type of undiscovered arboreal marsupial, which could explain the kangaroo-like features.
I've also heard some theories point to the sandhill crane as a possible explanation. Those birds are pretty tall and lanky, and in the right light, maybe they could be mistaken for something a little more monstrous.
That's a good example of how misidentification could play a role. Sandhill cranes have been known to make these eerie trumpeting calls, which could easily be mistaken for the screeches attributed to the Jersey Devil.
So maybe it's not a demon or a monster, just a case of mistaken identity fueled by fear and the power of suggestion. But what about those hoof prints appearing in impossible places? No bird or bat can leave tracks like that on a rooftop.
You're right to challenge that, and those tracks are one of the most compelling pieces of the puzzle. Some researchers suggest that what people are seeing aren't actually hoof prints at all, but rather the tracks of a known animal, perhaps a deer or a raccoon, disported by that soft, sandy soil of the Pine Barrens.
You're saying the environment itself could be playing tricks on us, making ordinary tracks appear more sinister.
Exactly. Imagine a deer walking across soft sand. The track could easily become elongated, misshapen, especially if it's partially filled in with leaves or debris. In the dim light of the forest, or, in that heightened state of fear that often accompanies these encounters, it's easy to see how those tracks could be misinterpreted as something more monstrous.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like our brains are primed to see the Jersey Devil, so we interpret any ambiguous evidence through that lens.
Precisely. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of this whole phenomenon, the psychology of belief. Humans, we are wired to find patterns, to seek explanations for the unknown.
Yeah, it's like we can't stand not knowing, so we fill in the gaps with stories and myths.
Exactly. And those stories, those myths, they often reflect our deepest fears and anxieties.
I'm starting to see how the Jersey Devil legend fits into all of this. We've got this creature that embodies our fear of the unknown, of the wildness that's lurking just beyond the edges of civilization. And then you have the Pine Barrens themselves, this vast, mysterious wilderness that's ripe for spooky tales and imaginative interpretations.
You're hitting on something really important here. The Pine Barrens are as much a character in this story as the Jersey Devil itself. This environment, with its dense forests, winding trails, and desolate swamps, has a way of playing tricks on the senses, blurring the lines between reality and imagination.
It's like the Pine Barrens are a blank canvas and we project our fears and fantasies onto it.
Exactly. And the isolation of the Barrens only amplifies this. When you're out there, surrounded by nothing but trees and shadows, it's easy to feel vulnerable, to sense that something unseen might be watching you.
You're making me want to book a trip to the Pine Barrens right now.
Okay.
But maybe I should pack some extra flashlights and maybe a silver-plated something or other just in case.
A little precaution never hurts. But speaking of venturing into the unknown, we can't overlook the impact the Jersey Devil has had on those who dare to explore its domain. The legend has drawn all sorts of people to the Pine Barrens, each with their own motivations and methods for unraveling this mystery.
You're talking about the paranormal investigators, the cryptid hunters, those folks who are actively searching for evidence of the Jersey Devil.
Precisely. You have groups who approach this with high-tech equipment, thermal cameras, EVP recorders, motion sensors, hoping to capture a glimpse of the creature or record its eerie screeches.
So it's like a real-life ghost hunt. Only instead of ghosts, they're after a winged, hoofed cryptid. Have any of these investigators actually found anything conclusive?
Well, there are plenty of stories of strange sounds being recorded, shadowy figures flitting across the camera's view, unexplained temperature drops, and even electromagnetic fluctuations. But as with most paranormal investigations, the evidence is often open to interpretation.
So it's like adding more fuel to the fire, more mystery to the legend. But what about the folks who are taking a more traditional approach to tracking down the Jersey Devil?
You're talking about the cryptid hunters who rely on more old-school methods? tracking footprints, searching for hair or scat samples, analyzing alleged nesting sites.
That's got to be tough work, searching for clues in such a vast and unforgiving wilderness.
It is. But these folks are dedicated, often driven by a genuine belief that the Jersey Devil is a real flesh and blood creature waiting to be discovered.
And what about the impact on the local communities? I imagine the Jersey Devil's become a big part of the Pine Barrens' identity, attracting visitors and influencing local businesses.
You're absolutely right. The Jersey Devil has become a cultural icon for the Pine Barrens, a source of local pride and even a bit of a tourist attraction. There are Jersey Devil-themed shops, restaurants, festivals, even a professional hockey team named after the creature.
It's amazing how a spooky legend can become such a powerful cultural force. But it's not all fun and games, right? I imagine there's a darker side to this too, especially for the people who live in and around the Pine Barrens. You're right, it's easy to get caught up in the fun of the legend, but for some people, the Jersey Devil isn't just a fun story. It's a real source of fear and anxiety.
That's a really important point. The legend can have a very real impact on people's lives, especially those who live close to the Pine Barrens. Imagine you're hearing strange noises at night. And knowing the stories, it would make you wonder if there's something dangerous out there.
That would be enough to keep anyone up at night. It's a reminder that even though we're talking about a legend, it can really tap into those primal fears.
For sure. And those fears can be passed down through generations. They become ingrained in the fabric of the community. It's like this collective anxiety that lingers, even if people don't consciously believe in the Jersey Devil.
So the legend really shapes how people experience their environment, their everyday lives. That's powerful.
Yeah, it is. And it highlights the fact that folklore isn't just about entertainment or, cultural identity. It can really impact how we see and interact with the world around us.
We've talked a lot about the different theories surrounding the Jersey Devil. The cryptid theory, misidentification, psychological explanations. Are there any scientists who are taking a more a rigorous approach to studying this?
Yeah, there are, and their work is really fascinating. Some researchers are using techniques from fields like ecology and animal behavior to analyze the Jersey Devil reports, looking for patterns in the sightings, trying to correlate them with environmental factors, animal migrations, even weather patterns.
So they're treating it like a real scientific investigation.
Exactly. They're applying the scientific method to something that's, for so long been relegated to the realm of myth and folklore. And while they haven't found any, definitive proof of a new species, they are gathering data and insights that could shed some light on cryptid sightings in general.
That's a great point. Even if these investigations don't prove that the Jersey Devil exists, they can at least help us understand why people see and believe in these creatures.
Exactly. And that knowledge can be applied to other cryptids and unexplained phenomena, helping us, tell the difference between genuine anomalies and the tricks our minds can play on us.
So it's not just about finding the Jersey Devil, it's about understanding how our brains work, how perception and belief can influence what we see and experience.
You got it. And that, to me, is what makes the Jersey Devil so compelling. It's not just a scary story or a potential cryptid, it's a window into the human mind, a reflection of our deepest fears, our curiosity, and our fascination with the unknown.
Like we're trying to understand the world around us, find explanations for the things that scare us, the things we don't understand.
Exactly. And sometimes those explanations take the form of legends and myths, stories that we pass down that help us cope with the mysteries of existence.
So as a listener who's, fascinated by cryptids, what's the main takeaway here? Should I believe in the Jersey Devil? Or should I chalk it up to, overactive imaginations and spooky stories?
I think the takeaway is that the Jersey Devil, like all legends, invites us to ask questions, to explore different perspectives, to embrace the mystery. You can choose to believe in the literal creature, the cryptid, the supernatural explanation, or you can look at it from a more skeptical viewpoint, focusing on the psychological and cultural factors.
It's like we each get to kind of create our own relationship with the legend, find our own meaning.
Exactly. And whether you believe in the Jersey Devil or not, the legend itself is valuable. It connects us to history, to folklore. It reminds us of the power of stories. It challenges us to think critically about the world.
That's a great way to put it. The Jersey Devil is more than just a creature. It's like a cultural touchstone, a symbol of the mystery that surrounds us.
Well said. And I think it's fitting that we end this deep dive on a note of mystery, leaving you, the listener, to ponder the possibilities. Draw your own conclusions. and maybe even embark on your own exploration of the Jersey Devil legend.
So the next time you find yourself in the Pine Barrens, remember the stories we've shared. Keep an open mind, and maybe, just maybe, you'll catch a glimpse of something truly extraordinary. Until then, happy exploring.